Tracey, it's
Hi.
great to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm good. Anytime I get a chance to chat with you is a good day. So it's a good day.
It feels like I just did a swim not too long ago, and you've been coaching me for
Yeah.
like what, 3 years now?
Yeah, probably three plus. Yeah.
Three plus. I
Been
think
a
we're coming
while.
up on four.
I
Yeah.
think we're coming up on 4 in January. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we were reflecting after my swim. I think I was still in disappointmentville, which I've come out of recently. Um, and what I realized is that when I set out, it was, closer to 3 years ago in Lake George. That was my
Yeah.
first long swim, which, I set out to do like 64 miles or something.
Long is a thing,
Crazy.
right? Crazy long.
Yes,
I just want to add
right.
that.
Yeah. 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 But I remember nothing had been ideal that summer. I was so engaged once I learned swim
Yeah.
mastery and learned about, being a lot more mindful of my swimming instead of going through the motions. I'd completely come from a place of pain and discomfort with my shoulder that was completely
Yeah.
resolved just by changing my movement patterns, which was incredibly empowering. But I remember being unwell that summer, just like I had a horrible cough and I
Yeah.
wasn't able to train the way I wanted. But I just went into the swim
Yeah.
just like with this curiosity of like what's possible if I just set out being present in my body in my swim and see what's possible. And then just a little recap from there. It's like I ended up making it the 32 miles across Lake George, turning around, and it was a really hard turn. But mustered the gumption through the support of my crew to keep
Wonderful.
pushing and did another 4 miles before realizing my body was kind of shutting down and couldn't get my stroke rate up and decided to walk out on the beach at Rogers Rock State Park. Um, and then there's been a couple other swims since then, but this one
Yeah.
most recently it was very similar situation.
It
Um,
really was.
yeah, except we were endeavoring the 50 miles, but I swam 25 across and turned around much more efficiently, in very good spirits. I'm really optimistic, but right into smack dab into a crazy
Hideous weather.
headwind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't let up. It just kind of got worse. Not, yeah, worse. I think it got up to like 14 miles an hour headwind. But then I remember when my crew told me after it was like sometime in the afternoon, I turned around sunrise. It was 1 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And they said my stroke count was like 36. And I was like, what? Like, I
Yeah.
thought it was low in like George when it was 41. And they're like, 36. Are you kidding me? But it was interesting to be reliving like that exact same
Yeah.
situation again. And all that long way of recapping was just like I feel like I've been with this kind of new way of swimming with like swim mastery style or the swim mastery way. Now we have a name for it since your book came
We
out
actually
last
do,
year.
yeah.
I've always just been so curious about how far can you go? And we set these arbitrary goals for ourselves,
Yeah.
right? For some people, it's the Triple Crown or the Ocean Seven, or for me, it was 50
Yeah.
miles for my 50th birthday. So a
Yeah.
completely arbitrary goal. And then you set out, then you just push off to go see what can happen. And there's lots of different ways to train and prepare for that kind of
Yeah.
undertaking. And the way that it's been important to me over these last 4 years, especially, is for swimming to be a part of my life, but not all consuming.
Yeah.
And that I'm well rounded, especially in an aging body, that I'm well rounded in my movement and isn't exclusively just swimming movement patterns, that
Yeah.
I'm doing strength and flexibility that actually contribute to the movement patterns that
Yeah.
facilitate, what I'm doing in the water
For sure.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big, just I tried to take us to here where we are now.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting to
yeah.
look back over the journey. And I think just, having sort of walked on this journey with you and been a very small part of it, I think the biggest change that I've really seen, I mean, obviously your stroke, it's a no-brainer. It's just gotten better and better and better and more efficient and safer and less painful and all the things. But the biggest change that I have really witnessed is the whole mindset and mindfulness and being able to be in your body and feel your body to make some of these pretty intricate changes that we've been working on more recently. So it's been really interesting to observe.
Yeah. And I think coming out of what felt like a disappointment to me in the time, I guess, and this is maybe
Yes,
what I
for
was
sure.
alluding to a
Yeah,
little bit
understandable.
earlier,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Because you set this goal, I'm going to do this 50 miles.
yeah,
And then it was such a conscious decision to me that I was just like, I had 15 miles to go, couldn't get my arms to go around any faster. The wind was forecast to be like that for another 6 to 8 hours. And it was, it felt like I gave up, and I was having to reconcile that in myself. Like, did I give up?
yeah,
Like, because I could have kept going. I mean, for a little bit
yeah,
longer. I mean, I wasn't hypothermic, but I didn't want my crew to have to drag me out. It was a very conscious decision that I had
yeah,
I've had that I lived with. But what I've kind of come to realize this, and then just this one other swim last year when I first set out to do 50 miles, and I ended up, it took 29 hours and about 36 miles, kind of similarly to this one. And I'm like, well, my question when I set out was, how far can you go? And at least 3 times now. And then there was this one, Waitukabuli, was also about
yeah,
36 miles. It was 22 miles up the
yeah,
coast in the Caribbean. And so it turns
yeah,
out that swimming 3 days a week with the swim mastery way, and it's different, of course, for everybody, but I can
yeah.
swim about somewhere between
So
22 and 29
36
hours
miles.
in around
Yeah.
36 miles.
And
And
to
when
be
I
clear,
realized,
you're swimming three times a week, mostly in your back garden in your endless pool. It's not like you're going to the lakes for 3 or 4 hours or,
yeah,
doing big squad sessions or anything. And I think that's what's so remarkable is how you've been able to find the space in your brain to trust just getting your body into the right place and trusting that the strength work you're doing and the open water swims that you do are totally enough to be able to swim up to 29 hours so far. And who knows what's
right.
still to come.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's it's kind of cool. And what's so amazing is to come out of a swim a week and a half ago. And today I was like, Tracey, send me a set. I'm going to the pool because
I
I'm so
know.
excited to go see what I could do next.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just the way that my 50th year has kind of come together for myself, just like in the way that I'm deciding to take care of myself, make time for myself. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go. It's just like um I'm feeling the pull to commit even more. Like when I say I swam 3 times a week in the last 3 years, that's a good week because mostly it was once or
Yeah.
twice. And
I
a
know.
lot of times it was about 10 minutes
Yeah.
at a time at the end of a
I
block of
know.
lessons with 5 and 10 year olds, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to carve out a little time for myself. Um, that was just a really interesting thing for me to stop and reflect in conversation with somebody, because of course I have to figure everything out talking out loud. It's like, wow, no, that's what I've learned. So you set the
Yeah.
arbitrary bar to go and see what'll happen. First of all, no matter how you prepare, the lake's gonna throw at you whatever it throws at you. Mother Nature
Yeah.
is
You can't control it.
rules.
Yeah.
But so I didn't make 50 miles. I know I can swim in between 29 hours and about 36 miles. Yeah, and like you said,
Yeah.
maybe something else would happen in the future. I had some great conversations with my crew about, time of life. And I just know right now it's hard for me to do long swims at the end of the summer
It
because my
is.
summers are
Yeah.
very full. And so
Yeah.
maybe there'll be another time in my life where I can, prepare differently. But
Yeah. For
um,
sure.
thinking back to that I remember sending you that voice message after the swim
Yeah. Just after the
and
swim.
feeling like this big ramble of like, but then this and then that. And then we finally got to talk. Maybe you want to recap kind of what you told me, just to just that I could be so aware of like where I was in my body. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that there's two things about it. I think that and this is for everyone, not just for you, is when swimmers set these arbitrary goals. And yes, for you, we're talking about you set this goal for 50 miles, and there's lots of people out there that want to do the Channel, Triple Crown, or all of those kind of big swims. But there's also people out there that are really excited about doing their first sprint triathlon, where they really want to nail 750 meters or an Olympic, or, you know, their first half Ironman or Ironman. And I think what's so great is that the way we coach and how we can get people into their bodies, everybody can reach the potential that they want to reach, no matter what the goal is. And I think that that's the first thing. And I remember that conversation and how you were saying you were kind of being a little down on yourself, a little hard on yourself. And I was like, Shannon, you just spent 26 hours swimming, 26 hours. And, you know, that's a long time, you know, off the back of, obviously, I know very well how you've prepared for this. And I, you know, I remember saying to you that I think the key difference with how you felt when you got out, and bodily and emotionally, I think, and mentally, I think, you know, bodily, I know that we have a knee thing to look at, and I'm really excited to work on that. But no shoulder pain, and, you know, you were getting dressed and putting your arms up and picking stuff up and all the things directly out of the water, having just swum 26 miles. Like, that's one thing that's amazing, particularly because there has been shoulder issues, you know, in the journey. And so that was really, really exciting. But the most exciting thing was how you dealt with how you talked to me about how you dealt with things during the swim. And I think you've for sure, you know, been mindful in swims, you know, of past, but this one just felt different. It felt like you were really, really in your body, in your sensation. And any time that something popped out as you talked me through it, you were really pulling on one of your stroke cues and one of your sensations in your body to kind of get you through that next step. And, you know, I think that's a big reason why when you got out of the water, and you were able to get out of the water with that conscious choice, because you were really, really present, if that's what it felt like through the swim. So you could make those conscious decisions about whether you were going to stay in or go out and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of, it was a really interesting conversation to have, you know, directly off the back of that mammoth swim. Like,
Yeah,
just
so talk
huge.
it's I'm still disbelieving most of it, just for a bazillion reasons, but it happened. But take me
Really
more
did.
into this presence that you're talking about. Tell me how you kind of want to work with swimmers to help them, you know, feel that for, you know,
Yeah.
2 minutes or 20 or whatever, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, you know, as you know, I've been coaching for a long time, and I've had the pleasure of working with some amazing people and coaches through, you know, through all these years of working with swimmers. And, you know, Terry Laughlin from Total Immersion is definitely the person who introduced me to the idea of flow and presence and mindfulness in swimming. And it kind of took me on this huge journey of discovering, you know, what can we do as coaches, and what can we help our swimmers find as swimmers to get that state, if you like, for want of another way of describing it, but using that as a way to accelerate the learning journey. And so, you know, go on a few years, lots and lots of courses behind me, and trial and error, and using, you know, lots of my clients and swimmers, you being one of them, as kind of guinea pigs to try stuff out and see what works and see what doesn't. It's become really interesting to me that the quicker that you can get somebody to be in their body and out of their head while they're in the pool, whether they're in the pool during a lesson or whether they're in the pool practicing, the more focused, the more they imprint these movement patterns, the more they understand, the more they just do instead of analyze, you know, and no judgment. Like, I know you and I have had to talk about that a lot, and I just feel that swimmers are so hard on themselves about not getting stuff right because they're so busy judging what they're doing. And I think being able to get people into their body and just doing the cue allows them to come out of that judgment analysis, and then just allows them to imprint the body positions and just stay connected to what's happening in that moment and time. And then learning that so well that when they go and do their 750 meter triathlon or their 50-mile marathon swim, it matters not, that they can draw on that ability to be in a lake, a channel, ocean, wherever, and still be able to draw on those sensations and those kind of pictures, and I call them sometimes movies that we create, so that people can kind of just play the movie through their body as they are moving across the lake, ocean, or whatever. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and so much more to still learn and explore with that side of things. But it certainly has increased the quickness. I can't think of a word, that's not a very good word, but for now we're just going with quickness of how people are learning. Like, you can literally work with someone for 10 minutes. If you can get them in their body, they can look completely different. I think I did a Mastery Monday about 2 weeks ago with this one lady, a young lady who'd swum all her life, and she got in the pool, and you've got the before footage where she's literally a bit like a seahorse. One of my clients calls herself a seahorse when she does that. And then literally just getting her in her body, we got her into a completely beautiful, streamlined, balanced position. And it's so quick if they're doing it in their bodies rather than trying to think everything through. So I think it was just powerful to hear how much you drew on that ability that you've trained into your body for the last 4 years during this last swim.
Yeah, and I mean that's maybe worth just kind of recapping here, and I'm still coming to understand the neurobiology of flow, like it, but
Yeah,
it's real, like and I think just for like so we're all on this, like you talked about kind of the non-judgment, and then there's like the
yeah,
I think people talk, I guess at least I hear people talk about flow as in like the evaporating of time, right? So like time
yeah,
disappears
for
or,
sure.
things like that.
Yeah,
But it's always kind of curious to me because it can be an expansion or contraction of time too. Cause it's like, like
yeah,
where sometimes for me in a stroke, it's like the moment between, like, I don't know. I'm thinking of a tempo trainer and it being like a 1.2 second tempo trainer, but it can feel like eons, like between
yeah,
one
for
beat and
sure.
another. Because
Yeah,
because of that awareness that you hone in your body, and you can feel, the flick of the toe, whatever it's like, and how the water's playing off of each little piece, and there's so many different components when we start playing with
yeah,
tempo and all that, but that space of non-judgment is, as a coach, I find the hardest. Like, I mean, I go into all my coaching and lessons I do with kids where like I trying to take a minute before and like being present with them, because that makes me
yeah.
the best coach that I can be in that moment. But then trying to help them like push out that judgment and be present for themselves is so hard.
Do you know what? It's really fascinating that you kind of touch on the coaching side, and I know this is about swimmers, but I think it's really important that we as coaches realize that it's just as important. And I remember I recently broke my toe and I've been in a lot of pain, and I suffer from migraines, and I had this session at the pool one day, and I was in a world of pain, just a world of pain that I couldn't even decipher where the pain was. And but I had this person who had traveled from Japan to come and have lessons with me, and had been booked for months, and so I wanted to absolutely show up for him. And um, I sat on poolside, and because I couldn't get in, I had someone else helping me because we do a lot of tactile feedback with our swim mastery. So I actually had another coach help me with the tactile feedback, and I was on poolside. And you know what? Within 10 minutes, I had no pain, and it was
Oh, wow.
fascinating. And I got out of that session at the end of that, and didn't realize during the session that I had no pain. It was only afterwards, once we had finished, I went, wow, I can't feel any pain. My migraine's gone, can't feel the pain in my toe. And it was a real reminder to me of how powerful being present is with everything, not just swimming. And I think
Mhm.
it's always interesting because we as coaches know how important it is to get people in their body, but people don't know that until they do it. And so it's
Mhm.
that little journey where we start to, and yeah, you're right, it's quite tricky to have somebody get into their body where they don't quite trust why they're doing it, because as humans, we're so good at overanalyzing and thinking everything through. And then months down the line, I had a conversation with a client yesterday. Months down the line, they're in the pool and they're able to just make a slight adjustment in their pelvis, for argument's sake. This was happening yesterday. And I'm like, wow, check what you can do. Whereas before, they couldn't even feel if they had legs, let alone where they were, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she was saying to me, it's really interesting now because she's a triathlete and she's taken this idea of being really focused and present into her running and cycling now. And it's just transformed the kind of the feeling of time and how long it takes for her, because she's just really focusing on, some of the swim cues that I give her, she's putting into her running and her cycling. And it's just a really exciting thing to hear how the journey goes. And they don't start there, but once they get it, they're like all in, and
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Yeah. And it's cool because I mean, with swim mastery, I mean, when we're talking joint mechanics, it totally carries over to everything. I'm always trying to
Yeah.
like find my frame and my weight, and weight training
Yeah.
or anything, or yoga,
Yeah.
like anything where we it and that brings you into the present, moment, I guess. Well, I guess it depending how you're kind of cueing it or how you're implementing it, but having that, I think that understanding a little bit of where we're going into a flow cycle, which can require some struggle to get to the flow. Which I'm wondering if it's the dopamine. That's why your pain went away, right? I mean, this is the part
For
that's in our
sure.
biology. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I'm so
Absolutely.
getting to know the whole cycle
Without a
more. But
doubt. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and then
really, and I think the word struggle, I would say that it's a we could use the word struggle, of a struggle to get into that flow. What I find so great about, how we ask our swimmers to, what we ask our swimmers to when we're actually working with them, and then what we have, the conversations that we have when they've had a go, that's where they learn the ability to get inside their body. Because as you well know, when sometimes in the first 2 or 3 lessons, and a client will stand up and you'll say, so how did that feel? You did this or whatever cue we've given them, how did it feel? And they go, good. Yeah. Okay, so what are you going to do with good? Oh, it's good. Okay. And then next time they might stand up and say better. I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do with better? Like, better than what? And how are you going to know when you take these cues to the pool that you're better or good? You aren't
mhm.
going to know. And I think that that's what's so exciting about this journey is it's I like to call it a challenge rather than necessarily a struggle, because it's a challenge for me as a coach to see what I have to do to, you know, either with my hands, being my tactile feedback, or using, I have the opportunity to work in a studio with the swim, with the endless pool with swim current. So I can use the pool, the current, the flow, the mirrors, of a way to just get curious about how that person can feel something, anything. And once they pick up on one thing, then we lose the words good, better, fine, okay. They become words that we just don't have in the pool. And then very, very quickly they can then get into their body. So yeah, I think it's a really, really fun challenge. And it's fun to get the student or the client excited about that challenge for themselves. Obviously, to begin with, it's an exciting challenge as a coach, but I think then it becomes something to get better and better at as a swimmer once they understand how much it serves them and their stroke and their swimming, and then eventually, weirdly, their lives.
Right. Yeah. Let's just talk about that for a minute. I feel like that's been a big thing I've been delving in this year, is trying to bring that I, into, into other areas of my life, that, presence or flow or whatever we want to call it. But it's, I don't know. Tell me a little bit about your journey with that. Did it start with just coaching swimming, and where has it extended for you?
Yeah, so for me, it for sure started in the pool. And I remember, sometimes we would go to events or occasions, and the clients would say, oh, Tracey's so patient and she's so this and she's so that. And whoever I was with would be going, really? Wow, I don't see that side of her at all. So I had very much a coach persona or whatever, and then I had my real life where the two didn't meet for quite some time. And that was a real personal growth journey that I went on, and I'm still on it. I have many moments in the day now, whereas before I'd probably have none unless I was coaching, where I can really just stop and see what it is that I'm doing or hearing or seeing or feeling, or whatever the things are, and just ground myself in that moment. And I think the coaching, as much as I coach, or the more I coach, the more that I am able to do that in my in my normal day-to-day activities. And I think that it's really had a huge effect on how I am able to show up for people, whether it's my family, my friends, or the coaching community that we're growing in Swim Mastery, and then obviously swimmers and so on. So yeah, I think it's been life-changing for sure. And I love it. And I can't wait to learn even more and more and more and do more and more of it.
Right. Yeah. I think you said what did you say? You said like, I know what I'm doing or something like that. And like that
Yeah,
happened to me today where it's like, I went downstairs to do something and I knew exactly what I was going to do. Like, which, it's like, it's just like as a, I don't know what, just the whatever the life that I've led up until till becoming aware of kind of how I can bring this presence and flow that I have in the water into others of my life. It's like, it's so easy to just distract and busy ourselves and to be trying to
for
do
sure.
15 things at once. And that's like
Yeah.
flow. It's like one of the reasons swimming
Yeah.
is conducive to flow is just because you leave the distractions behind.
Yeah,
And that's the piece of it. And then we've got to start to strip away some of the other things to get more present
for
still
sure.
yet.
Yeah,
But it's interesting to walk around like knowing what you're doing and why you're
yeah,
doing
it's
it
weird,
and
right?
what
You're like,
it's
oh, I'm doing
right.
this. Yeah. It's pretty wild. I think the
Hmm.
most important thing for swimmers to really grasp onto about this, sometimes I feel, when we talk about flow and mindfulness and all the things that, some people that may see this or hear this or watch this go, oh, that's not really for me. But what I always try and help the clients really understand is the more they can get into their body, and that tends to be how I describe it, the faster they're going to get. And who doesn't want to go faster? And the more they are judging that they're not fast enough, the less they're here and the less they're ever going to reach that goal, whatever it is. I want to swim 100 meters in 1:30, or whatever it is their particular goal is. And it's so cool to watch people's faces as they recognize it. They start to be, because obviously the first port of call for changing anything is building the awareness of building the awareness of what you're doing first. And that you can see they're starting to go, oh, okay, there might be something in this. And slowly but surely, through the work that we do with tempo and stroke count and perceived effort, and both in the endless pool or in a normal pool, and just working through this stuff and showing them that the more they can focus in their body on their cues, the better the numbers get. And then
Hmm.
throwing in a couple of lengths where you say, okay, now you're going to go, I want you to go full out as fast as you possibly can on this one, and off they go. And everything just becomes a very loud, noisy thing, and they get back slower. And
Yeah.
they kind of look at the clock, and they're like, you can see they're like really confused. But it's such a great way to help people understand that getting inside their body and out of their head and out of judgment is actually the only way to get faster. Not working harder, not training more, not kicking fast. None of those things are necessarily going to get you to the goal, and certainly not a sustainable form of the goal. And I think that's always fun to work with people on, and fun to explore with people.
Because it's hard. That's why it's fun, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a challenge.
It is. It is indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wanna, I think that's a nice box that we've created for the flow piece. I think I just want to take a minute to, like at the end of my swim when you were like you've always told me, it's always about the journey, but just in our little human way of grasping these outcomes, what words of wisdom would you have for our listeners about outcomes and journeys and the process versus the outcome, right?
The first thing that I would say is allow yourself to be human, because at the end of the day, we are humans, and we're going to do human things. And not achieving, even if it is an arbitrary goal, not achieving a goal we've set out to do can be disappointing, and that's okay. And then being able to not sort of get stuck in that disappointment and not make it into a thing about putting yourself down or judging what you've done, but looking at what you've learned from it, looking at what is changed, what did you draw on, all the things. And what I say to my swimmers is as you know, it is about the journey. And for me, the journey ends from a training, I don't like the word training, practice perspective. The moment that the swimmer pushes off the beach, jumps off the boat and starts the swim, whatever happens after that is what it is. And we deal with whatever it is, whether they get there or they don't get there or whatever happens. And then they get out, and what I do is I like to get them back in the pool and take a video, because all I ask them to do is, while they've been swimming, is make sure you get out of that swim a better swimmer, because you have nothing else to do while you're swimming across the channel, across the lake. So you might as well work on your swimming. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where you're at, and we'll keep kind of making it better. And I think it's just a really nice way of looking at it, as just improve your stroke and allow the feelings that come with whatever the outcome, and then carry on the journey. Because the great thing about swimming is there is no end to the learning. Right. We can do this forever and ever. So yeah, that's usually the advice that I give that. And on that note, I need your video.
That's
after your swim.
My after video. Yes. Yeah. I'll get you that footage for sure. I remember being really excited the first time that you had asked me to do that after Lake George, and and then reveling and like, oh wow, I really did come out like a bit of a better swimmer than I win, because it seems unfathomable to some. At the time, it really seemed unfathomable, but now, now I get it. And actually listening to you say that back, it's like how cool is it that to come out of some feat of arbitrary goal striving and to come out of it really excited to engage back in the journey and the process, and that's been a huge thing for me, because I used to suffer that burnout, like you coming out and then you like hurry up and book the next thing because you're so excited to go have that big high at the end, but then be completely burnt out for weeks or months and not wanting to get back in or getting back in with whatever. So it's really exciting for me to be in a place where
a week later when you're asking me for sets.
Right. So thank you for that.
Thank you for working with me and trusting me and all the things.
Tell us a little bit about what's coming next for Swim Mastery. The book's out. If people haven't heard about it already, be sure to get your hands on the Swim Mastery Way. I pass it out as often as I can to whoever will take it.
Thank you. It's really exciting this year, because we've been rewriting, redoing the website, and we're hoping to launch up. We've done some really amazing photo shoots and video shoots and stuff to get nice footage for the site and stuff. So we're just waiting for that footage, and that'll be coming out. I'm not going to say a date because I'm not exactly sure when we'll get the photos, but soon. And part of that launch of the new website, we really want to be able to support swimmers around the world with really getting excited about how they can maybe train, I call it practice, differently, effectively, efficiently, and find these abilities of getting into their body that we've been chatting about the last while. So we're going to be offering a membership where people can sign up, get access to products, and also have monthly calls with me and Q&As, and we'll have a little kind of book club. So anyone who has got the book and has questions, instead of having to email me, we'll kind of have a community area where we can have some chats and discussions about it. So I'm really, really excited and really looking forward to the next stages of, getting people to want to have sets from me a week after they've swum for 26 hours. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Yeah. It's I'm excited to continue to support swimmers in this way. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable journey. I think as is defined in the word mastery, like you'll never be the master of swimming,
Never.
but it's so cool to be on the path of mastery and like on that spiral learning that we like to talk about. So thank you again. And
absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.